Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys for Tuesday, October 16th. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, joined by Andrew McGinnis and Jimmy Murphy as we break down the Tuesday NHL card. Alex B. Smith under the weather. Hopefully he'll be back with us on Thursday. Looking forward to breaking down this Tuesday slate. Not as big of a card for a Tuesday, but several interesting games to break down. Let's get everybody's first take on a Tuesday morning as we talk pucks, as always, here on the NHL Ice Guys. Andrew McGinnis, how are you this morning?
Yeah, doing great, guys. Good morning to you guys. And you know what? Again, I keep talking about it, guys, but the 6.5s, the 7 we saw this weekend. I mean, all these totals. I mean, that's the funny thing. It's almost like it's a surprise to everybody that the totals have risen, but it's almost a good time, guys, to look at a few unders, and that's probably what I'll be doing over the next few weeks, because the odds makers are getting a little bit too excited with these overs. So it might be time to look the other way.
That's a good point. I mean, you're starting to see unders the last couple days in the NHL. They've been starting to cap. We had 3-0 unders on Sunday. Look at that. I mean, on the Sunday slate with that little mini slate that took place. And again, you're seeing 6.5s. And also now we're 2 weeks just about into the season, and defensive play starts to catch up a little bit. Hell, even Toronto's defending the last couple days, and that's a miracle in and of itself in their last 2 wins against Washington and the LA Kings. So it goes to show you, odds makers have made that adjustment, maybe some value to the under moving forward. Let's get Jimmy Murphy in. Jimmy, how are you on a Tuesday? Boston, there's nothing going on in sports right now in Boston, nothing whatsoever.
Yeah, not at all, right? You said, you know, that we got Andrew under the we got Alex under the weather, I mean, and I'll tell you, I'm a little under the weather, but probably not for the same reasons. There's not much sleep involved in Boston right now, but it's for good reason. The Red Sox, the Bruins, the Patriots, and now the Celtics tonight. It's a crazy sports culture right now, and yeah, you love it. You got to enjoy it. I mean, when I was growing up, I didn't have that, and we were talking about this the other day. A lot of these, 30 and under here in Boston sports fans have been pretty spoiled. So when I see them get nitpicky about critiquing players, or they get on Tuukka Rask a little, I say, look, guys, settle down. You don't know what losing is. So it's a great time here in Boston. But on a down note, I do want to just give a shout out to our friends, the Martins. This hat I'm wearing right here, guys, the first cameraman that ever shot me like doing TV. For Nesson, when I was doing some Bruins coverage for them. His name was John Martin. And I don't know if you guys have heard about this Cafe Martin. It took off here. He had ALS. He was battling it for 2 years. And while he was going through it, he said, you know what? I'm going to get out there. I'm going to make myself present all over social media. He got out into the sports world. A lot of sports teams got behind it. And Cafe Martin became sort of this community of people rallying around him and trying to fight for a cure for ALS. And tragically, he passed away on Sunday night. So a shout out to the Martins and Cafe Martin here from Boston. You're with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Our condolences for sure. And I heard about that. And the fact that Bruce Cassidy mentioned him in a press conference, too, that tells you the impact he's made, the respect he had.
I mentioned it. Yep.
In the organization. So, yeah, absolutely. And that's a horrible disease.
We were when the Bruins won the Stanley Cup in 2011. We were taking the bus back. We weren't allowed to leave the arena. I don't know if you guys remember the riots in Vancouver.
Yes, I remember that.
So we were coming back, and we were just, I'll never forget it, just doused in champagne. And it's drenched, but it felt great. So big shout out to Cafe Martin. And I'm ready to make some picks in honor of him.
And
all right, sounds good. Go ahead, Andrew.
Before we start there, it's just, first of all, my condolences. That's a tragedy. I'm really sorry for your loss there, Jimmy. And it's one of those things that it's almost like, he found a way to build it as part of the community goes. And that's what you got to love about sports. And you hear that so often. You see these great stories about people, using the brand and using the network that hockey can use to kind of, show everybody what the disease or what everyone's going through. And it's true. Hockey is bigger than just a game. It's a community. And it just goes to show right there. I mean, that's a perfect example right there where you guys use that platform. You said the Boston Bruins head coach mentioned it. So it was obviously close to the team. And again, sorry for your loss, Jimmy, but it's almost great to see how you guys use that platform of the hockey world to try to build the exposure. Yeah. So that makes me happy to hear that.
Hockey's like that, man. I think hockey's the best for that. And that's why I'm in this game. So.
Exactly. And look at the way people responded to the Humboldt and Saskatchewan tragedy too. And everybody just comes together, and it's exactly this sport brings people together, I think, more than anybody else. And it's always a great thing to see. No question. I'm telling you what, I'm sometimes very nitpicky when it comes to donating to charities and all that. But every time ALS Foundation or anything cancer related comes knocking on my door or ringing my phone, I'm all ears. Whatever donation I think is suitable, I'll do something for you, because those are things we need to fight against. Those are things we need to find cures for, and they're diseases that I have no problem, giving for those causes, 100%. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it about Vancouver, and Vancouver, I've always said, and I said this jokingly, beautiful city. Great place to visit until they lose Game 7 of a Stanley Cup final and they're ready to burn the town down. And not only that one, but the Rangers in '94, they had a little riot too on that when they lost that series too.
A couple times too. So.
Yeah, exactly. So no, we love the people in Vancouver. We love the city. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I'm kidding. But all right, guys, here we go. Off we go. Off and running with this Tuesday slate. Let's get it going. We've got Dallas and New Jersey. First game on this slate. If we go in rotation order, we've got the Dallas Stars on a second night of back-to-backs here as they head into this game. Tonight, New Jersey about a -135 home favorite in this game. The total 6 pretty much across the board. And hey, I mean, don't tell the Ottawa Senators they're supposed to suck because they're not buying into it right now. Nice win for them last night, 4-1 against the Dallas Stars. Very good performance from them. They withstood a barrage early from Dallas. They needed Craig Anderson to be stupendous in the first period. And he absolutely was in net for the Senators. And then they got a little momentum. They started to finally carry the play a bit in the second and the third period and get a nice win against the Dallas Stars now, entering on the second night of back-to-back games. We'll see if they go to Anton Khudobin, because I'll tell you right now, he was not good against Anaheim in his one start this season. Bishop losing last night makes me think they actually might give Bishop another go tonight. It's early in the season. You just be careful with just assuming the goalie that didn't start the night before is going to be in the next night on these back-to-back games. Early on, the coaches don't mind as much given the number one guy both starts. You might see that with Bishop, especially with Dallas off the loss. From a New Jersey Devils perspective, solid start to the season for them, 3-0. Very, very good start. And actually, they're a team that's been featured on the NHL Network doing the training camp show. You've been able to see some of that stuff they've been doing with John Hines. And just watching that, and I'm seeing John Hines, really trying to tell this team, don't sit on what you did last year. Last year, you took this team from a bottom feeder into the playoffs. We got to go even further now. We've got to raise our game even more. That was his message in training camp, and boy, they're heating it so far. It's been a nice start for this Devils team. Certainly from a scheduling perspective, they have the better of it here. Yeah, makes some sense to like New Jersey here in this spot. I would have preferred it. I was looking at New Jersey more if Dallas won last night. I'm a little bit less inclined to take them now after they lost last night, the Stars. You'd think the Stars probably fire back with a good effort here, but still, I lean to New Jersey. There's no question. I think they're playing good, and until they give you a reason to lose, or until they give you a reason to bet against them or a reason to doubt them, you got to ride them. Their offense is clicking. They're getting some pretty solid goaltending right now. Lots to like with this New Jersey team. Nice 3-2 win over the weekend against San Jose. So they're beating some good teams. They shut out Washington, the defending champs. Now, they had the better spot. Washington was on back-to-back, but can't poo-poo it too much. It was still a great performance for this Devils team and playing good hockey. So lean to New Jersey here for sure. I don't think I'll bet it, but definitely if I have to give a lean, we'll lean to the home side in this one. Let's get to Jimmy. He's involved here with the Devils and the Stars on this Tuesday slate. Jimmy, what do you like?
I'm all over the Devils in this. In fact, I'm going with the puck line on this. I just really like what they're doing right now. You mentioned the good goaltending they're getting. And obviously, I'm not going to say that Schneider's been bad by any means over the last couple of years. In fact, before they got their act together in front of him, he was all they really had there. He was their saving grace, no pun intended. But, now you look at it, they've got a defense in front of him too. And I like the way that defense as a whole is playing. They're buying into Hines' system. When we saw Jersey last year kind of have that revitalization and get things going again and get the franchise pointing in the right direction, it was more about offense, and you could kind of catch them a lot on odd man rushes, and that was sort of their downfall as the year went on and into the playoffs. But right now they've tightened it up there. They've only allowed 4 goals, and I just like them a lot. They're going to catch a tired Dallas team I understand what you're saying there, Ian. I agree that could go, Dallas could bounce back and want to really prove the naysayers wrong after what happened last night in Ottawa. But I just think, they probably got in late flight there, and you're staying in Newark, New Jersey, which can't be too exciting. And I just think that the Devils are going to jump on this tonight, and they're going to win by at least 2 goals.
All right, New Jersey puck line. I like that from a value perspective. That's value. That's digging into the bargain bin right there.
25 right now, so that's pretty good.
That's digging into the bargain bin. So puck line recommendation at -1.5 goals at over north of +200 for Jimmy in this game. Devils taking on the Stars. Next up, we've got the Panthers and the Flyers. Shockingly, the Florida Panthers, one of 2 remaining winless hockey teams in the NHL. For a team that I thought was going to be pretty damn good this season. It's not been the start Panthers we're hoping for, but can they right the ship tonight against the Philadelphia Flyers? That's the big question. Right around even money in this game right now. Philly -110, -115 in that range at home. Total 6, pretty shaded to the over pretty much across the board here in this hockey game. Really defensively and goaltending is where you can point to the issues for Florida. They've been able to score goals. I mean, they should be able to score goals, and they have. You like the offensive weaponry this team has, and I've said it all along this season when we've talked Florida Panthers. Boy, from a forwards perspective, with Dadonov and Barkov, Huberdeau and Trocheck and Mulligan. These are all, and Bukestad, who was day-to-day and may not play tonight. That's something worth mentioning. But this Florida team stacked up front. It's going to be how do they respond defensively. There's definitely some question marks with this Florida back end once you get beyond Ekblad and Yandel. You get to those bottom 2 D pairs, you got a little bit of question marks starting to show their heads about them. A lot of inexperience, a lot of average defensemen at this point in time, as far as I'm concerned. Youngsters back there as well, trying to grow and improve on the defensive side. And then you've got, of course, the situation in net where, you got James Reimer, who can be great one night and absolutely lousy the next, and Michael Hutchinson backing him up until Roberto Luongo gets back from injury. So you got some issues with this Florida team, but I like this as a buy low opportunity here with the Florida Panthers tonight. Philadelphia, I mean, what have they done to impress me at home? I don't think they've won a home game yet. So far, this Philadelphia Flyers team, they're 2-3. Brian Elliott it's maybe not as extreme so far as Reimer, but sometimes you get those nights with Elliott too, where he can throw up a clunker. Look at the San Jose game last week against the Sharks. So just an indication that sometimes Elliott, you're not sure what you're going to get. Flyers are battling injuries too. JVR's out indefinitely. Nolan Patrick, second-year sophomore player now, battling injury, may not play tonight in this hockey game. The way I look at it for Florida is, you played Columbus, you played Tampa. Obviously, the Vancouver game, it's kind of bad to lose that game. But you've played some good opponents so far. You haven't gotten the breaks. You've been in every game. You've had a chance. I think this is their chance to finally get over that hump, get a win in their back pocket. Maybe going on the road is going to help this team too. First game of a road trip. That's always a good bet on spot for me in the NHL. I know Alex B. Smith, our fellow ice guy, often agrees. First game of a road trip, good spot to bet on a team, especially if they're struggling. Chance to really, get bond as a team, get away from the pressures of being around home and focus on the task at hand, which is winning a hockey game. And I still think Florida's the better of these 2 teams. I know it hasn't shown up record-wise yet, but you don't determine who makes the playoffs and who's got the record they've got after 7-8 games of the season. It's an 82-game season. So I think Florida's got a lot of opportunity turn this thing around starting tonight. So I'm going to be on Florida here. I still think it's a better hockey team. Getting on the road might do this team some good. Let's get to Andrew. He's involved with the Panthers and the Flyers tonight. Andrew, what do you like in this game?
No, Ian, I fully agree with your statement that you can't base what you've seen from a team so far, what we're going to get all season long, and I get that for sure. And like you mentioned, the Ottawa Senators, for example, a team that was supposed to be terrible this year, off to a relatively decent start themselves and stuff like that. But when you've got a team like Florida that everyone's saying 100% a playoff team, going to be a team that progresses all season long. I'm sitting here as a Habs fan saying, well, I think my Habs looking a lot better than those guys. I mean, I think Florida cannot take care of the puck to save their lives. I think their defense holds onto the puck way too long. Their goaltending is very, very iffy every single night. The rebounds that they give out. If you're taking an under in a Florida game, you're taking a shot in the dark, in my opinion, these days. Looking into this game, I think Philadelphia is a little banged up. On our last show there, I had a lean on the under in that game against Vegas. And, of course, it's just a 1-0 game, but I think this one can kind of turn the other way. When you've got a team that's banged up and has some injuries, but they're coming off a loss like that was a very plain, boring, goaltending battle type game, I think things kind of turn the other way. And I do agree with what you're saying about the whole first game on the road and heading on a road trip and stuff like that. So for me, I think this one should be an action-packed game. This one should be, everything to the net. Just get some shots, and I think that's how this game's going to have to work out. As far as Florida goes, when you're stressing to get a win right now, you're sitting here 0-2-1. You're a team that's producing goals but just can't quite finish that. That's all you got to do is, once you get on the road, fire shots. Don't worry about the quality as much. Just try and get those shot numbers up from good spots on the ice. I think that's what they'll do tonight. Having said that, I just think the talent level is higher on the Philadelphia Flyers roster. The lineups, looking over the deep pairings even. There's nothing that I can do to really convince myself to grab the Florida Panthers right now. I just think that even if it's a high-scoring game, Philadelphia can compete at that level. Guys like Voracek, Couturier, Konechny, even Giroux, Lindblom. I got to see more from Wayne Simmons, to be honest with you. I think that he's that third-line kind of surprise guy that could always make a huge impact on games. So I think heading into this one, I'm just going to give out kind of 2 picks, kind of 2 leans, the over and Philadelphia.
Over and Philadelphia. Okay, we've got the over 6. Yeah, there should be some goals. There definitely should be. I mean, look at the save percentages of these 2 goalies here in this game. We've got James Reimer at 885 and Brian Elliott at 883. That's not John Van Beesbrook in his prime with the Panthers 20 years ago and Bernie Parent in the nets with these 2 teams right now. Not one bit. So you got some issues right now at the back end. You got some issues right now with the goaltending on both of these teams. Yeah, the over definitely wouldn't talk anybody out of making that wager. Vancouver and Pittsburgh, next game on the slate. We've got Pittsburgh, which, as you would expect, minus 220 at home, total 6.5, shade to the over. However, don't look now, but Vancouver Canucks have back-to-back wins against some teams we thought were going to be pretty good. Tampa, we knew was going to be good. Florida, we thought was going to be pretty decent. Vancouver's beat them both, but now you got some injury problems, and of course, Elias Pettersson's the big one here for the Vancouver Canucks. Injured in that game against Tampa Bay, out indefinitely. This is a team that I said last year, I talked about it all last year. Once this team started to suffer some injuries, they didn't have the depth to withstand them. I still think that's the case with this Vancouver team. So if you've been backing Vancouver at these nice underdog prices to this point, this might be the game to jump off that ship a little bit. They're banged up, a little wounded coming into this game against Pittsburgh. But there's problems with Pittsburgh right now. They're giving up too many quality scoring chances. They're giving up really too many good looks at the net. I mean, they're giving up tremendous quality in terms of the scoring chances against. Montreal was able to cash in on them, beating the Penguins in a shootout. It's not been a good defensive start to the season. The loss of Justin Schultz on the back end is enormous for this Pittsburgh team. He plays in all situations. He's a great skater. I think he's one of the better point producers from the blue line you'll see as well in the NHL. So that is a massive hole. Now the Penguins have to try to patch together and fix on their back end, which is certainly not going to be easy. You just get a little concerned now. It means you're going to have to ask Chad Ruedel and Juuso Riikola to really pick up the slack in terms of minutes for this Penguins team on the back end. You like Dumoulin, you like Letang, Jack Johnson's good, Oli Mata is really getting better, I think, over time. But you're going to have to start relying on that bottom 2. Could be a little bit of an issue for the Penguins moving forward for a team that has managed the puck. We talk about Florida's not managed the puck well. Neither has Pittsburgh. Their defensive play has been atrocious at times this season. We'll see if they can fix it. Mike Sullivan's harping on it. He harped on it going into the last game too, and they still lost, and they still gave up scoring chances. So it's fallen on deaf ears to this point. But Vancouver banged up. Vancouver 2 straight road wins now. You're still on the road here in Pittsburgh. It's got that feel that Pittsburgh might have their A game and might put the boots to this Canucks team here tonight, but I'm not going to bet it either way. It's a pass for me from a side perspective all around. 6.5 the total here. I'd lean under the total here, to be honest with you. Pittsburgh's got to show, if they're going to show you improved play defensively, they've talked about it. They haven't shown you yet. It's been all talk, no action. This has to be the spot. You got Vancouver that's dealing with some injuries, a little bit banged up. Maybe this is a chance for the Penguins to get this defensive game righted. And I think Casey DeSmith's still a solid goalie. I think Casey DeSmith, in the meantime, with Matt Murray out, is solid. He was totally abandoned by the defense in front of him. as far as I'm concerned, in that last game against Montreal. I don't really hold that loss at the feet of Casey DeSmith. So I think he's got the chance to really have a bounce back game. And really, I want to see what the Penguins do defensively. Because if this is another night where Vancouver is wheeling and dealing in the zone, getting A looks at the net, and just nobody's blocking a shot, nobody's clearing the zone, and we're seeing the same things with Pittsburgh defensively tonight against a banged up Canuck team that's also road weary, that's had a lot of air miles piling up on this road trip of theirs. That's a red flag to me. This is definitely a red flag game if Pittsburgh does not show tonight here against this Vancouver team. So this is a fascinating game to watch. Won't be betting it, but one of the games I'm interested to see, because the Penguins have been talking ad nauseum about improving their play in their own zone. We'll see if they actually back it up with their actions tonight as they host the Vancouver Canucks. We've got the Colorado Avalanche, New York Rangers next on the card. We've got Colorado on the road, about $1.40 road chalk, total 6 across the board. Colorado is going to feel like they let one slip away the other night, which I'm happy about. Calgary was my best bet on the NHL Ice Guys on Saturday's show. Calgary coming back and taking care of business against the Colorado Avalanche. 3-2 in overtime. It was a tough start for Calgary. Bing, bang, boom. 2 goals early for Colorado in that first period. But they righted the ship, and they were the better team the last 40 minutes. They took the play to Colorado. They had better stretches of play. They've peppered Semyon Varlamov with a lot of shots, and eventually Johnny Gaudreau gets the winner in overtime on a breakaway, sealed the comeback win for Calgary. So disappointing loss, deflating loss for Colorado. They bemoaned the fact that they didn't play 60 minutes in that game after that loss. And now you go on the road, face the New York Rangers here. New York Rangers, there's nothing to like right now with this hockey team. It's been a really tough go for them. You know, there's been some games that have been a little bit mildly competitive, but they're 1-4. The offense is not really something you can hang your hat on. Henrik Lundqvist at his age right now, we're seeing it game to game. One game pretty good. The other game, you get the odd soft goal or two, the old Dairy Queen special, as I like to say, and that becomes an issue for the New York Rangers, because if Henrik Lundqvist is going to give them anything less than good goaltending, their offense can't bail them out this year. It just can't. It doesn't have the firepower whatsoever, and that's going to be the concern here. Colorado, of course, with arguably the best top line going in the NHL, certainly one of them. When you put those three together, McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen, you got to be able to contain them. We'll see if the Rangers can do that. It would be Colorado or pass for me. I mean, $1.40 on the road's not the greatest price ever, but it's hard for me to stomach making a case for the New York Rangers. They're certainly a team that's clearly rebuilding and showing signs of that by the way they've started out the season to this point. Let's get to Andrew here. Actually, both of them are on this game tonight, Jimmy and Andrew. Let's go to Andrew first with Colorado taking on the New York Rangers. Andrew, what do you like here?
Yeah, guys, if I can get $1.35 with this Colorado Avalanche team against this New York Rangers team, I'll gladly take it any time of the day. I mean, it's not too steep of a price. We're not getting the best value, but we're typically, the way I'm looking at it just very simply is that we're getting a top-tier team versus a very bottom-feeder team at just a -130 price. I mean, this is something that you don't just look at it and base your bets off the odds that you're being given, but sometimes you got to look and say, why is this the price that we're being given? Why are we getting just such a lower price? In my eyes, it should be -145, 150 for the Avalanche. And looking at these rosters, again, I hate to always just go right to the paper, but sometimes it does just speak for himself. I mean, Ian just mentioned it, the Rantanen, McKinnon, Landeskog, that top line, those three guys, there's nowhere that's even comparable to those guys on this New York Rangers roster in my eyes. I mean, I think one of the best guys you're looking at for this New York Rangers roster is probably Chris Kreider, a guy that's known for sliding into goalies like Carey Price. So, I mean, this guy isn't a goal scorer. We've got guys like Zibanejad on this top line center. He's not bad. He's a two-way center, but he's not a guy that's going to lead your team. And then, of course, we got the guy that I've continuously talked about that was always called the King. Well, I'll tell you what, he's no longer the King. He's not King Henrik anymore. He's been the man. He's been the man for his country for a long time. He's been the man in New York. But MSG is not going to have a lot of good hockey this year, guys. We're getting -135. I'll gladly take Colorado in this. I mean, look, you look at these teams, the standing so far. You look at their records. You see a 1-4 for this Rangers team, and you got to think sometime it'll turn around here. Sometime they're going to be competing in a high-scoring game. They're going to get an upset once again. But you know what? Their only win in the season is just a really, really bad scheduling spot and a weird spot for the San Jose Sharks. And they beat the San Jose Sharks in overtime. That's the only win they've had in the season. And that was just kind of a random, like, oh, really? Like, San Jose? And the San Jose has been a team that's been kind of up and down. So Colorado, one thing with them guys, in my eyes, they've been consistent. I mean, they've been putting out an effort every single game. They've been competing, and those top guys have not really gone away. So if they can continue to be defensive and play defensive hockey and shut teams down offensively, this team's going to be dangerous throughout the entire year in my eyes. So again, I'm not taking this strictly just based off, the odds we're getting at minus 135, 140. But to me, that's still a little bit low in this game. And I don't think New York has a puncher's chance in this one. So go ahead and take the Avalanche on the money line.
All right, Avalanche money line for Andrew McGinnis. And I'm looking at this Rangers defense too. I mean, Mark Stahl's been on a downward slope. There's no question about that. You've got Brennan Smith's okay, but he's not going to give you much offensively at times. You got Frederick Clason's a meandering defenseman. Shattenkirk to me is a total liability in his own zone. He's a great skater, power play guy, but he's a mistake waiting to happen in his own zone. I keep hearing people say elite defenseman for years about Shattenkirk. No. Not even close. When you can't play, when you are completely shitting your pants and urinating all over yourself in your own zone, the way he does at times, no, you're not an elite defenseman. That can't be a term that you use with that guy. So there's issues on that back end. And then, of course, there's issues with scoring. You're already seeing Quinn fed up with Pavel Buchnevich, who's supposed to be one of your impact top 6 forwards on this team. He's a healthy scratch tonight. He's being benched. That's a bad sign right there. When one of your top guys you're relying on is already getting benched by the coach because he thinks you're not giving a good enough performance, that's a problem. Rangers got some issues right now. And Andrew's right. The one win was a fortuitous good spot for them, bad spot for San Jose in a tough travel situation. So, Colorado or pass clearly for me.
Since you did mention defense, I mean, you've got Zadorov, Tyson Barrie, Girard, Johnson for the Avalanche that are actually impact players. I mean, they make an impact every single game they're involved in. They're not just defensive defensemen either. They can push the puck up the ice. They join the rush. And that means a lot to me when I bet hockey, to see what kind of defensemen we're dealing with. We're dealing with pylons that just like to stand there in the back, or guys that can get the puck out of their end real quick and join the rush. And the Avalanche do that. So I like to see that a lot.
Yeah, and Kevin Pine in the chat says Lundqvist has been good actually so far. I mean, it's 1-3. It'll show up on his record, but it could have been worse without Henrik Lundqvist. He's actually has had a good start to the season. His save percentage is very, very good, but can he sustain that over time is the question. All right, let's get to Jimmy because he's involved on the Avalanche and the Rangers game as well. Jimmy, what do you like here?
Well, let's not forget, guys, too. Lundqvist is still rocking the best suits in the NHL. The guy is a very fashionable man. Oh, yeah. We got to give him credit there. But you know what? I'm with you guys totally on this. I mean, sometimes, like Andrew said, you got to just look at the paper here, and you got to go with the talent and the skill where the Avs have way more right now. And you brought up a good point about that defense in New York right now. Kind of a defense that's going the complete opposite way, with the exception of Shattenkirk, of course. But going the complete opposite way of where we see blue lines going right now, and the fact that they're more like, these old school heavy hitters. You got Brendan Smith, you got an Adam McQuaid, who I got to see so much of here in Boston. They're tough. I wouldn't want to mess with them in the corners. But in terms of just, being able to keep up with the speed of the NHL right now, these guys are getting caught flat-footed left and right. So I like the Avalanche in this. I think McKinnon is on a warpath right now. 6 goals already heading into this. A beauty the other night. I could see another one of those at MSG under the bright lights there in New York City. I love the Avalanche and the puck line, and that, in fact, was my pick for SBRpicks.com. That's my free NHL pick right now, the Avalanche puck line.
Avalanche puck line. I like that Jimmy's going for the 2 goals or more margin for that and for New Jersey tonight. Let's go for that bargain bin. Let's go for that plus price. Let's get that value. That's fantastic stuff. Carolina, Tampa Bay next up on the very good matchup here, actually, in my opinion, with these two teams. With Carolina off to this hot start, 4-1-1. Exactly. Tampa 2-1. We've got Tampa minus 160, total 6 shaded to the over. This is one of my favorite plays on the board tonight. We're going up and over this total of 6 because I've got 2 teams with a similar mindset. A couple games ago, Tampa Bay lost to Vancouver. And what were they saying after that game? They said, we're passing up too many scoring opportunities. We're passing instead of shooting far too much. Well, guess what? Tampa Bay corrected that against Columbus. They went into that game Saturday saying we're shooting from anywhere. Well, we've got the puck on our stick. We're throwing it at the net, looking for traffic, looking for rebounds. And sure enough, what happens against Columbus? An explosion. What, 8 goals? 8-2 victory for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, that's obviously not going to happen every night, 8 goals, but Tampa Bay made a concerted effort going into that game against Columbus. We're throwing every puck toward the net, and we're going to try to score goals that way to get this, what had been actually, believe it or not, a little bit of a stagnant Lightning offense to that point before that game against Columbus, but they got the explosion they were looking for. You talk about teams that are throwing pucks at the net. Carolina, Kakalaki's been that team. I mean, my goodness, they're leading the league in shots on goal per game. Now, that doesn't automatically mean you're getting quality shots, but when you're throwing that many pucks at the net, you're going to have a good chance to at least get rebounds, get some traffic, get some loose pucks in front if you can win those one-on-one battles and put yourself in a better position to score. So you got 2 teams, I think, coming into this game based on their coach's quotes from Cooper for Tampa, from the way Carolina's played this season under Rod Brindamore, which is really refreshing. I mean, he really has emphasized, just get the puck toward the net when you've got a reasonable path toward the net, a reasonable shooting lane when you're in the offensive zone. And boy, they're heeding those words. So I think you got 2 teams that are going to throw everything at the net tonight based on their recent actions and based on their recent words, especially with Tampa's newfound look at it going into that game against Columbus, and that mantra paid off for them in spades. So I think we're going to get lots of chances. It doesn't mean for sure you're going to get the goals to go with those chances, but I'm going to take my chance over 6 here in this game with the Lightning and the Hurricanes, because I really think you got 2 teams that have spoken about it audibly in press conferences, in interviews, that they want to get these pucks at the net and get as many opportunities as possible. And I think you're going to see that in this game tonight. So my play here is over 6 with Carolina and Tampa Bay. Not crazy to like Carolina at the plus price either. This team is in every game. They throw a lot of shots at the net. That makes them a live dog seemingly every night. And like I say, the offensive talent is much, much better up front for the Carolina Hurricanes this year than it was last year. I like a lot of this young group that they've got that is capable of scoring goals. Warren Fogelli's had a tremendous start. Jordan Staal, really, he's had a great start offensively. We know Aho, tremendous game breaker. They've got Teravainen. Michael Furlan, the ex-Flame, has been an offensive force so far. They haven't even gotten much from Valentin Zykov, who is expected to be a tremendous, tremendous player offensively for them over time. And they've still been able to generate chances, generate goals. So I think we see chances, and I think ultimately we see goals tonight in that game. Carolina-Tampa, I'll go over the total in that one. Next up, we've got Edmonton taking on Winnipeg at MTS Center. Winnipeg minus 200, home chalk, the total 6 across the board. Don't really have much on this game right now. Edmonton, we know it's been up and down for them. They finally got a nice win on Saturday against the aforementioned struggling New York Rangers, but it's a game you were hoping the Edmonton Oilers would find a way to win. They did. They're still, really struggling to find a secondary offense. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Can the defense keep playing well with Andre Sekera out? That's the question. Sekera, it's back to Sekera now for the Edmonton Oilers. And then Cam Talbot in net. Can he have a bounce back year? All of these are the big questions. The 3 big questions. The D hold up. Can Talbot bounce back? Can they get secondary offense outside of McDizzle, Nuge, and Draisaitl? That's the big question for this Oilers team. Winnipeg hasn't found their offense just yet. It hasn't been clicking yet offensively for this Winnipeg Jets team. That's become crystal clear. This hasn't been that same just absolutely explosive, all 4 lines contributing effort yet this season from the Winnipeg Jets. I think it'll come at some point, but it hasn't been there yet. So it's not a team I'm looking to lay a big price or go puck line with. At the same time, do I trust Edmonton on the road here against one of the better teams they've probably played so far? They haven't beaten anybody good, Edmonton, yet this season. I don't really trust them. So it's going to be a pass for me on this game, but interesting to see. The Oilers eventually they got to show you that they can beat someone of quality. We'll see if they can step up and show they can beat a team like this tonight against the Winnipeg Jets. We've got Arizona, Minnesota next up on the slate. Minnesota minus 145, the total 5.5, pretty much across the board here. You got Minnesota. They're in a tough scheduling spot tonight. The Wild are on back-to-backs. Loss in Nashville last night, 4-2. Arizona had their first win of the season against Anaheim, could not withstand prosperity as they come back home against the Buffalo Sabres and get absolutely shut out 3-0 in that game. And that's going to be the issue for Arizona. Until they get Alex Galchenyuk back, this is not going to be a consistent offensive team. We've seen that. They've actually had a ton of chances. They've outplayed teams for extended stretches in every game, lots of shots, but they're not converting those shots into goals on a consistent and routine basis, and that's what's held the Coyotes back. Nevertheless, there's been nobody on this show or nobody on the face of this planet that's been more high on the Arizona Coyotes coming into this season than me. I've basically screamed the praises of this team from the heavens above. If I can't take Arizona in a much better scheduling spot for them against a team that I flat out think is just not very good right now, Minnesota. Let me put it that way. I don't think there's a good hockey team. I think this is a team that could miss the playoffs in that Western Conference. I mean, if you're Bruce Boudreau, you're starting to worry. Where's your offense? You're giving up a lot of shots. The one thing Minnesota could hang their hat on was their defense, and even it's had games where it's been shredded here in this game. You got a bunch of older players. Parise's older, Suter's older. Mikko Koivu is really getting old and up there in age. That's a concern. You got to be able to have young legs and an injection of youth, skating ability. Look at your Montreal even. Why is Andrews' team playing better than people thought? They got an injection of youth now in that team. I see an injection of people ready for the seniors home. With this Minnesota Wild team at this point in time. Maybe I'm going nuts there, but my point is they're all in their 30s now. I think Zach Parise is a good player still, but I think his best days are behind him. Same with Ryan Suter, same with Mikko Koivu. Those are not guys that you want to rely on to carry teams at this stage of their careers. I like Arizona here. They're in a better spot. They're getting a nice price. They've been good on the road. They beat Anaheim on the road. They've been competitive at least on the road. They could have beat Dallas. They outshot Dallas, outplayed Dallas that first game, and deserved a better fate, I thought. Minnesota, to me, is wildly overrated, wildly overvalued. No pun intended.
Very much intended.
Yeah, I just thought of that now. It didn't occur to me, Jimmy. I swear, I did not think of wildly.
You said it twice.
I know, equate that with Minnesota, but someone knew that made sense and says, Ian, you got to say that right now. So Arizona for sure for me, an absolute slam dunk that I'm betting this at plus 125 tonight against the Minnesota Wild. Let's get to Jimmy. Arizona, Minnesota. Jimmy, what do you think of this game?
You know what, brother? I'm going to continue the puns and I'm going to continue your take as well. I'm howling with the Coyotes tonight. I love the Coyotes in this one. I agree with you what you're saying. Their offense is kind of going to be a crapshoot until they get Galchenyuk back. And I think even when he's back, it's still going to be kind of a learning process, so to speak, for that young squad. But I just like this team a lot this year. There's something about them. I think they're going to be fun to watch. They're learning. They're kind of, to me, the New Jersey Devils of last year almost. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but they're going to be in the mix this year for once, and they're going to have games in March and April that are going to be meaningful for their fans to watch and for the NHL to check out. So I like them going in and taking care of a tired Minnesota team here. Something is really missing with the Minnesota Wild right now. I wrote this the other day. I think it was from my preview yesterday where I took the under 6 and the Wild and the Preds. But, Bruce Boudreau, again, I don't know, guys. He could be – I think everyone looking into this season was thinking Randy Carlyle was going to be the first coach to get the axe. And, of course, the Ducks came flying out of the gate, and they've been one of the pleasant surprises. Bruce Boudreau could be on the hot seat right now, and I really think, that might be a good value bet too, a little bonus pick for you here if you want to take him to be the first coach fired, because let's not forget, new GM in Minnesota right now, and Paul Fenton. Boudreau's not his guy, and I'm sure that Fenton's looking for an opportunity to get his staff in there. So something to keep an eye on as we go on here. I like the Coyotes tonight over the Wild. Exactly.
That's a great point. Bruce Boudreau's on thin ice. I think at this point in time, he really is. The one thing you could count on with Bruce Boudreau before, guys, was regular season success and division titles. I mean, now we might not even get that from him this year. We might get a shitty regular season. You can't rely on this guy in the postseason to be a big-time coach in spring, but at least you could get a great regular season from him. Minnesota might not even get that this year.
And maybe he needs to go back to eating those huge banana split sundaes that he was eating that time. And what was that HBO show, the 24/7 or whatever, when they followed him around before the Winter Classic? He needs to get back on the banana splits. That's what I'm thinking.
He does. I think that's what's costing him right now. Exactly. It's not anything X's and O's. It's not anything you can put on the whiteboard. It's get to eating those banana splits and you're going to start winning games again. Exactly. Right. Well, hopefully the wins don't come tonight because Jimmy and I both like Arizona. Andrew's involved in this game too. The Coyotes taking on the Wild. Tough spot for Minnesota. I know Arizona has had so many games this year. They've dominated. They've outplayed the team. They've outshot the team and still lost. But you know, damn, like the effort every night is there for this Arizona team, and hopefully that's enough tonight. Andrew, what do you like in this game?
Yeah, guys, I've been involved in a few games with the Minnesota Wild, and of course, one of them was that disappointing 2-0 blown lead for the Blackhawks, where the Wild ended up winning 4-3 in overtime there. And you know, in the next game, obviously, I ended up having Carolina, where I was on the other end of it. And Carolina came back several times and sent it to overtime and took a victory there. So this Minnesota team, one thing about this team, and I'm looking right now at all their past games since the season has started, and you know whether or not it reflects based off the scoreboard, just based off what I've seen for shots or player stats, this team competes. But again, it's the same thing I've been saying since the season started and last year as well. Is that if you want to talk about depth in a sport and how important it is to have a deep roster, how important it is to have every day there should be guys that you don't really talk about that are doing something good. That's how a coach should have, coaches shouldn't have to ask for that to happen. It should just happen and kind of come to their attention. That's how I see it. And that doesn't really happen for this Minnesota Wild team. I mean, if you're on a power play or if, let's say there's 5 minutes to go in a game, there's maybe 3-4 guys for this Minnesota team that I'm counting on to score, to make that impact play. You're not going to get too many surprises out of this team in my eyes, and that's what hurts them the most. But having said that, even though I was on that under as well in that game last night, Jimmy, and I think that this team should be an under team as the season progresses. But as for things go right now, I mean, Ian's talking about their age and playing a slow pace of hockey. I think that they're going to be exhausted. They've been playing a lot of hockey recently. I think that they're going to have to push the pace a lot to play in a competitive game. Oftentimes you mentioned to your team, and when you're a coach, don't play to your opponent's game, play to your own game. But I think Arizona's going to come out here absolutely freaking flying, guys. And Minnesota's going to have no choice but to try and keep up with them. So for that reason, we're getting a very, very rare now, 5.5. We don't see it as much these days. I'm going to go over the total in this one. I think I could easily see, a 4-2 styled game for Arizona to win that. So I'm going to go ahead with the over 5.5.
All right, over 5.5 here. I hope Arizona holds up that end because, the chances have been there. We need the goals to be there, but you're right. I mean, Minnesota, with Dubnyk in net tonight, actually, for the Wild, they've been giving up a lot of shots with him. I think he's facing an average of 40 shots a night. So we'll see if Dubnyk has had a really nice start to the season. He's the only reason Carolina needed overtime the other night to beat Minnesota because he was fantastic. He was saving their bacon time and time. Yeah, he was saving their bacon time and time again. But we'll see if Arizona and Minnesota can get their offenses going. Andrew liking that game over the 5.5. And again, 5.5s. You got to try to make a case sometimes now for overs at 5.5 because you don't see as many of them these days at that number. We got the last game on the slate to wrap up this show on a Tuesday. Buffalo Sabres, Vegas Golden Knights. Believe it or not, even though this is an East versus West matchup, it's already the second and final meeting of the season between these two teams. They played in Buffalo earlier on, and of course, Buffalo got the home win in that game. So a little early season, same season revenge here for Vegas, but you got to lay a price to do it. -185, -190, the total 6 shaded to the under. It's a pass for me in this game completely. It's a little bit of a tricky spot for Vegas. I know they got the nice win against Philadelphia, much needed to wrap up that road trip. They desperately needed a victory. They got one. They're back home, though, after that road trip. Those are always difficult, but you never know. Being back at T-Mobile might be the adrenaline to fight through the physical fatigue, the jet lag, whatever the case may be for this hockey game tonight. Buffalo continuing their West Coast road trip. They were in Arizona the other night, got off to a nice start with a win there. They're in Vegas tonight. Believe they're probably going to California after that. But Buffalo doing their West Coast trip right now. Buffalo, lots of young talent. Definitely, we know Rasmus Dahlin gets his icebreaker, so to speak, his first NHL goal the other night against the Arizona Coyotes, and it's already looking like this guy's going to be just an absolute gem on the back end for this Sabres team. Just great poise with the puck, positionally sound, great skater, going to be able to make things happen on the offensive side as well. Just one of those defensemen that can do it all for you. It's a reason why he was a slam dunk pick for the Buffalo Sabres in that #1 spot. And Rasmus Dahlin is certainly showing signs of that early on for this Buffalo Sabres team. They're even getting some solid goaltending. Carter Hutton's been solid to this point, and Linus Ullmark was tremendous against the Arizona Coyotes. He got the start in that game, and I always said Linus Ullmark deserves more of an opportunity to start games for this Buffalo team, because I thought the few games he started last year, guys, he played very well for Buffalo, and we'll see if he can keep that up, but that was a very good start for Linus Ullmark Saturday night in the win against Arizona. We'll see where the Sabres end up going here goaltending-wise. I'm very fascinated. It hasn't been confirmed yet. You would think they go back to Hutton, but it's not for sure. You never know. After a shutout win, do you give Ullmark another chance? That's going to be the dilemma for Phil Housley, the head coach of this Sabres team, going into this game tonight. But Buffalo's definitely shown positive signs. This is a better hockey team than they were last year. Now, are they going to be a playoff team? Who knows? It's still too early. Maybe, maybe not. But positive signs so far from this Buffalo Sabres hockey team. Let's get to Andrew, his thoughts on Sabres, Golden Knights. Andrew, what do you like in this game tonight, the nightcap in Vegas?
Guys, many people have said this year it's a good year to fade the Vegas Golden Knights, at least for the early on part of the season. And I think looking back to last season, even though they had Marc-Andre Fleury between the pipes, a lot of people looked over the total in their games because they were such an exciting team. They were often running. They'd often score early goals in the first period. You know, when you're playing in front of a arena, just so packed, so loud, so exciting, that motivates you as a player. They always had good performances at home. But having said that, they're averaging 1.83 goals on the season so far, and they have not been able to find the back of the net at ease. It hasn't looked easy for them whatsoever. We got a team in Buffalo where, in my eyes, guys, they're a team that can score. They got the talent. They got the guys that can do it. But they're one of those teams in my eyes as well, in that same kind of category where they've got to learn how to play some defense and be involved in where I like to call just tighter games, just those tight, down to the wire, full 60 minutes type games. So in my eyes, I'm going to kind of go from where I was taking advantage of a 5.5 spot in the last game with Arizona and kind of take advantage of a 6 spot now and go under the total. I cashed that with Vegas and Philly, and we're going to go under the total in this one as well. This is one of those ones where I'm going to go back to, my old pal Dana Lane, what he used to say. And, when you get an under right now, you're starting off the game winning. And that's how you got to think about it. I mean, you're winning until that goes under, that goes over. And I think, the defensive battle between these two teams and the goaltending is actually looking relatively decent, like Ian said, for Buffalo. You can always trust Fleury between the pipes. Go with the under in this one, guys. I think it'll be another slow-paced game until I see the scoring and the talent and, these top guys once again lighting up the scoreboard for Vegas. What gives me the reason to expect them to be in an absolute shootout of a game? Nothing does right now, so I'll go with the under in this one.
Yeah, you're right. The Golden Knights aren't scoring right now. You're right. Where's William Karlsson so far? It's been a tough start for him. This was a guy that was a dynamo last year. Right, Jimmy? Nowhere to be found right now.
Yeah, and look at Pacioretty. I mean, they brought him in, and obviously they brought him in thinking they were going to relight that chemistry between him and Paul Stastny. Now Stastny's out for – the coach is coming out right away and saying it to the media, so it's bad. He's saying months at least, so that's not a good sign right now. Guys, that's another thing too. I don't know if we can find any props on it, but keep an eye on Vegas right now, making a deal for some forward help. They've got some defensive depth, and I would think George McPhee's looking around right now to get that offense jump-started.
Yeah, maybe they missed James Neal just a little bit too, of course. Decided not to re-sign him, go to the Calgary Flames, and I know he got a nice goal the other night against Colorado for that Calgary Flames team. So just a bunch of reasons why Vegas may be not scoring goals, and we'll see if they can get out of their offensive funk tonight at home against Buffalo. All right, that's going to wrap the show up, but before we do that, we got best bets, as we always do at the end of each show. Andrew, what do you got for a best bet on a Tuesday?
Yeah, I mentioned how strongly I felt about this game, guys, and I think it's a home game for New York, and I don't think they've looked very good at home, and so this doesn't really affect me. Colorado being on the road, and again, I think it's a good value spot. They open up as -125, only around -136 here at Pinnacle, and I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking this team is just way, way more talented. They're better in their own end. They're better defensively, and they're better goaltending-wise. So go ahead, take the Avalanche on the money line for my best bet.
All right, Avalanche minus 135.40 in that range. Best bet for Andrew. Jimmy, best bet for you on this card.
I'm going to keep that Avalanche flowing right down the mountain there, boys. Go with the Avalanche and the puck line, like I said.
All right, Avalanche puck line. And that's a great price.
It's all about the puns today.
Exactly. It's all about the puns, yeah. It's all about the puns, baby. As the remember that All About the Benjamins from the 90s,
Yeah.
good old Bad Boy records, yeah. Back in my day. Oh man, I'm dating myself now. All right, my best bet is going to be go back to it. I like it a lot. Carolina Tampa Bay game up and over the total of 6. Again, 2 teams that committed themselves, especially Tampa in their last game, to fire every shot they can at the net, direct pucks at the net. Get some rebounds, get some traffic, and ultimately get chances and hopefully goals tonight in that game. And we know Carolina's played that way from day one this season. Carolina, Tampa Bay over 6. That'll be my best bet for this Tuesday card, and that's going to wrap it up. A great show, as always. Thanks to everyone for watching us on a Tuesday morning. We'll be back on Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. We should have Alex B. Smith back in the house as well, and have the Ice Guys together again as a whole on that show on Thursday. So join us then, Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of the NHL Ice Guys. For Andrew McGinnis, for Jimmy Murphy, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the Tuesday night NHL card. Good luck with all your wagers, and we'll see you again on Thursday.